So, Laz from Unpopular Thoughts did a video very recently. I can't remember what the title was. Basically, something along the lines of black women feel that black men don't want them or support them. So he went through a lot of examples, basically coming to the conclusion that that's not true. All kinds of cases of black men defending and protecting black women, being married to them, supporting them, lifting them up. And Cedric on Comparative Reasoning gave a response to that, and he related it back to music. Everyone knows that music is very instrumental in how people think, what they feel, and usually is a blueprint or a layout or a mirror to what's going on in society. And so, specifically, R&B music among the African American community. So, in the 90s, the music changed. And although, from the male point of view, the songs were largely saying, baby, don't leave me, baby, I love you, baby, you're my everything. But then women, it seems like they hit some sort of limit. And it was a lot of man-hating songs, men ain't shit. And it persisted for a long time, most of the decade. The music has changed a lot since 2000, especially up till now. But in the 90s, that's what it was about. Not so much in the 80s, less in the 70s. And I felt he made a lot of strong points. But you have to go back to the source, and that's going back really, really far. And I blame it all on trauma. So everyone experiences trauma throughout their lives, to lesser degrees if you're fortunate. And all of us should be aware about how cyclical trauma can be. If you were physically or sexually abused as a child, it's a strong likelihood that when you are of age, you will propagate that same behavior on some other unsuspecting child. And that's how a cycle starts. But that kind of trauma isn't the only thing that's cyclical. And trauma, it can be more than just on an individual basis. It can be more than just on a familial basis. It can be larger than that. Black people, as a race, have trauma bred into their genes. And it's very hard for people to identify. I mean, you can look at articles and studies and people who think they know saying that the decline of African American families due and mostly because fathers aren't in the home, but then you have to, why aren't fathers in the home? That leads you to a whole nother conversation. African American families have never been valued since they became African Americans, since they were brought here as slaves as Africans and then began reproducing, making African Americans. Families were never coveted. They were torn apart, separated permanently a lot of times. There had to be a creation of a strong black family, but men and women having to work to support that family has always been the case for black families. And in the past, as in now, black females were always more employable than black males. I'm guessing predominantly probably because of this general fear of black males, what they are capable of, supposedly, I guess them raping their women. I don't know. But those issues that stem all the way back to slavery are still here. It's a generational, it's a systemic trauma that we have not overcome yet. Black men are always made to feel inferior in life in general, as if they don't measure up. If you feel like you don't measure up, and everything that you're being told out in the world is telling you that, eventually you'll start to believe it. You might start to shun responsibility. So you might get a woman pregnant and decide to bounce because you internalize what you've been told. It doesn't mean that you are a bad person. It means that you have been traumatized. Now, on the flip side of that, you have a female who is quote unquote abandoned, who doesn't understand the full breadth of what that male is going through, and now she's bitter. And now she has this child of this man that she's angry with. And let's hope the child doesn't look like him, because then she may visit all those bad feelings on him. And she has her own trauma. And then she visits that trauma onto him, telling him his father isn't shit. Or if it's a girl, telling her, your father wasn't shit. Men ain't shit. They'll do this, they'll do that. And the cycle continues. But you have to know that you are traumatized in order to take steps to stop it. And knowing that you have a problem is not something that people are very ready to explore, admit, or fix. Instead, you can talk about it. You can bitch about it. You can complain about it. Write a song about it. Sing a song about it. Therefore, you got songs about angry women upset about their situations. But men are not going to make songs about their side of it because, and this bleeds into gender roles, they're not being men if they're talking about their trauma, which is bullshit. But that is what this society has trained men, and not just African American men, all men, to believe. So the men can't say anything. All they can do is, baby, I love you, baby, I need you, keep singing songs like that, while the women are putting their trauma out there, and nobody's growing, nobody's healing. That is a strong basis to, why R&B music has been so man-hating. That is a strong basis to why a lot of black females feel like black men don't support them. Some of them may not even had any experiences where they didn't get support. They could be just repeating what they're told. Or maybe they have had a bad experience from someone who is traumatized and is behaving in the way that they've been programmed to because they heard it from their mother or their father or someone else. Breaking the cycle of trauma is the best way to alleviate these stressors that lead to these bad feelings towards each other. Black males and black females need each other. Black males still struggle with lower employment, lower education, higher rates of criminality, and incarceration. And a lot of that is systemic and society created. Black females are more likely to get an education, to be a single parent, to work 1 and 2 jobs. And unfortunately, shit was like that even right after the Civil War when the slaves were supposedly free. And it hasn't really changed. Yeah, we got iPhones and tablets and all this stuff, but we are still experiencing the same problems that tear us apart that we experienced then. And it's going to take for a man and a woman individually to come together, understand and recognize what they are up against as a couple, and individually communicate and work through it. Come together on it so they don't pass on those stresses, those trauma, those bad feelings to their children. Not passing that on to your children is the best way to break that cycle. It all relates back to trauma. It's going to take people individually looking inside themselves and looking at their family history to be able to see what they've been told and what has happened to them and make the change to do better for the generations coming after us. That's my best response to what both Labs from Unpopular Thoughts and Sidra from Comparative Reasoning had to say on the subject. It's going to take us coming together and looking inside ourselves in order to properly and positively move forward. That's all I have to say on that. This is Sidra with the Wicked Orchard. You all take care.